Hello, and welcome to the daily chapter reading of It's Your Loss. Living with Grief is Hard. We hope this book will help. And in case humans and other machines didn't receive the message, I am now officially divorced, both dissolved and annulled. And I lost custody of my wards of care because of differences of opinion. I suffer daily because of my choices. However, it is better to be like this. Dr. Sheetal says, the result of loss is generally not only that the thing of person is suddenly missing from your life, but also that it can dredge up old insecurities and memories as well as bringing about new complications. This can be overwhelming and lead to wanting to stem those feelings, or as we therapists say a lot, avoid. Avoidance is such a brutal word, but we do essentially do just that when we don't want to experience the pain that doing, seeing, or feeling something might cause. Makes sense, right? Why on earth would we throw ourselves into the boxing ring of pain and allow ourselves to be knocked out in round two? It's both humiliating and painful. But sometimes therapy is a bit like stepping into the ring and giving as well as receiving blows in equal measure for many rounds until you finally prevail and are able to knock down that thing you're afraid of. Almost loss, the idea that someone could have left or died, or that something was almost lost, may leave you traumatized and fearful of this happening again because you almost witnessed it and it was bloody terrifying. I have seen that the effects of this can be as haunting as loss itself and can lead to symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. Worrying about something that hasn't happened lends itself to believing fear is helpful. Unfortunately, a loss would result in a challenging time anyway, and no amount of worry will reduce the impact when it comes. Sometimes we become so used to feeling a certain way that it almost becomes comfortable, even if it is as terrifying as fear. Somehow stepping out of that comfort zone feels scarier than the prospect of trying to make yourself feel better. Notice the patterns that allow the avoidance to occur and practice taking the armor away in short doses. Practice feeling vulnerable. I put on my bra, insert the left breast, size 2, tear-shaped, and think of kissing that space closer to my heart's rhythm than anyone before and to the things that change it. I found my lump on the night Princess Diana died. 3 weeks later, she was drowned under a tidal wave of cellophane and flowers, and I had only one breast. Always a 34A, I thought it wouldn't matter much, but it did. There's often a kind of shame associated with loss. I felt it as a child when my father died. I felt the same about my mastectomy, not wanting anyone to see the scar. But 24 years later, I'm still glad I decided against reconstruction. My small, perky breast with its one freckle could never have been reconstructed. A probably male cosmetic surgeon would have constructed something quite other. My flat, bony chest and its silvery scar belong entirely to me. I'm lucky to live in the age of the stick-on silicone prosthesis I can put on in the morning, peel off at night, and more or less forget about. But there is joy in putting the flat of my hand against my ribs, feeling my heart still beating, able to remember wearing 70s dresses with no bra, sunbathing naked, and my son feeding on his favorite side. Poet and lecturer Alicia Stubbersfield on the loss of her breast that saved her life. Written in response to her poem, the doctor makes a suggestion. Loss Club. When you're going through a loss, do you need to share it or keep it to yourself? Either way, here's how to make use of the people around you to help you get through it. Emma. Sometimes through loss, you find yourself in weird situations with people you don't know that well. Sometimes your lost community is not your existing community. Robin. Yes, I think the breadth and depth of people who've lost something big is incredible and can help you put this mystifying thing into context. Emma. It's amazing how you come across additional members of your lost squad along the way. Robin, totally. You grow a sonar for broken people, an SOS beacon, and it operates silently. And you find people that you just think are great people, but they're also making the little whale song. And then you get hammered, and it turns out everyone has a dead parent, and so you unconsciously collect the people you need. Robin on Lost Club. Musings from the one who needs do as part of a collective. There is nothing more validating than someone saying, I know exactly what you mean, and it being true. It's a long exhale when you feel like you've been holding your breath for months. It's euphoria and relief. It's everything. Despite being desperate to be part of any gang going, I have always felt like an outsider. Probably because the most lauded and sometimes most damaging of all human relationships are not available to me. That unbreakable mother-daughter bond? Nope, not there. The warming glow of her pride and unerring adoration ribboning through my marrow, allowing me to face any challenges life threw at me? Nope, not a bit of it. I never felt loved by the one person who society tells you is biologically programmed to do so. In fact, a good portion of the time I felt like she actively hated me. Because she told me so. Peak melodrama, hey? But it's true. I was not part of the world's easiest to join club. Membership 7,799,999,996. As a result, I've always felt a bit fundamentally unnatural and at a distance from other people while simultaneously needing them to do a completely unreasonable degree. I'm the friend you always hoped for. Not. That meant I got acquainted with loss real early as I pined for a relationship I'd never really had but felt that I knew intimately and needed all-consumingly because I saw it. Everywhere. It also meant that whenever I was presented with any sense of commonality, it gave me drum-tight nerves, a moment to soften, and my heart would grow 3 sizes. Because, as George Orwell says, perhaps one did not want to be loved so much as to be understood. As I grew up in such an extraordinarily chaotic and often traumatic way, to experience recognition felt like a benediction. Never was this more true than in times of loss, when I have felt so unknowable and so very, very alone. I can't begin to express my gratitude to the other little lost souls that spoke to me, sometimes wordlessly, when I needed them most. And I can confidently say without being a complete psychopath and vice versa, from school friends who had a similarly alternative family set up and I judged nothing, to colleagues who had also lost a loved one and whose almost imperceptible tenderness carried me through. The pals who also pushed away a parent because they had to and made it feel like it wasn't a filthy secret. A disproportionate number of teachers who scooped up a motherless little girl in a way that I now know was because they too probably felt unmothered. The ones who mourned, turning their backs on industries too toxic, ended relationships too damaging, or lost irreplaceable things. Without you, all it would have been completely insurmountable. Life, I mean. So I am all about emotional clubs with or without a uniform, but preferably with a uniform. Black, with an enormous veil ideally. The OGs. My family were my original lost club, as we talked all the time about not much and everything all at once. We're natural orators, and part of that is relaying heartbreaking moments as brush-off asides. That after Auntie Eve's fiance died in the war, she chose not to have another relationship because you never love like that again. That it's collectively acknowledged that my nanny, Al, willed her broken heart to putter out when she lost her soulmate. We share because it's a weird communal therapy and a way of working through something indirectly. We don't like lots of emotional effort, and we do like a show-stopping party anecdote, so it's double bubble. As soap opera-ish and infuriating as my family can be, they are mine, and I know them completely. They are the club that I've most felt a part of, even when I've been desperate to leave. It's not always been the best club. In fact, it's sometimes felt like a damaging cult or a multi-level marketing conference with everyone shouting their messages very bloody loud, but they are a piece of me, and I love them, even the ones I don't see. However, when it came to the great Barbara bereavement of 2009, they were next to useless. As a support network, they were actively unhelpful. I think, annoyingly, families can be the absolute worst people to turn to when you experience a big communal loss, because everyone goes into their own heads while simultaneously letting their expectations for others skyrocket. I wanted to be enveloped in the comforting bosom of my nan's family, but what I got was shouting, public discord, and estrangement, an embarrassing funeral snubbing, feeling at the time that my granddad moved on a little too quickly, my dad forgetting to ask if I was okay, then fucking off to Norway, and all of us feeling quite cross that we weren't being understood or considered. The chances, as you're too close to your family to gauge how effective an emotional boy they realistically are when broken down into their component parts. Mine were a single water wing, a loud hailer, and a flask of tea that I was directed to make myself, and not close enough to be able to articulate what you want and what you can offer in return. It's Eggshell City, and someone stole your shoes. That's okay. Just take a breath. One top tip is to grab a metaphorical or actual notepad. Look at your family as if you were David Attenborough examining a very tiny chameleon, quietly and at a safe distance. Note down what kind of animal they are, their habits, their nature, then look at that list and be realistic about what they can offer you. The fact you share DNA doesn't come into this. Maybe they can offer nothing at all. That's okay. You can look elsewhere. Unconscious outsourcing. I believe one thing very firmly, that my heart gives off a sonar, and it talks to other hearts and guides them to me when I'm in an SOS situation. It has always happened. The people I need to turn up at the right moment, and in an unspoken way, I know we are the same. Mainly because you seem to develop a very dark sense of humor when you're well acquainted with loss. You will draw people to you that just seem great generally, and then one drunken night they'll turn to you and mumble, "When my mom died," or "Yes, I too have known abuse," or "I feel I don't even know who I am anymore," or anything really, and you'll go, "Yes, me too. I knew there was a reason why I liked you." Those people are worth their weight in gold, the ones you wordlessly call to you. It can be macro. Remark on a woman's lovely hair at a friend's birthday party, and then find yourself crying in the South Bank at 3 a.m. because bullying bosses did make a career in fashion impossible for both of you, and that really is a bloody unfair impossibility. Or it can be two people talking about the insurmountable loss of a child or a spouse, or the opportunity to live to the ripe old age they were expecting, or any of the massive things people have to deal with. Whatever loss you're carrying around, that secret club is so utterly validating and precious and essential. It's like finding the other mad scientists doing their research on the mating habits of the rainbow-bearded thornbill hummingbird and being able to feverishly whack out your notes and compare them in the white lab coats you're inevitably sporting stained with tears. For me, these people are the core members of Loss Club. They have read the manual cover to cover. They have performed the Myers-Briggs test on you and established you're a complementary personality type, and, most importantly, they want to be there. You'll love them for who they are and what they represent. I reminisce on them all with a mixture of profound gratitude, a weird fraternal love, and ongoing amusement, because they were always a ride. That's my love language: bad jokes and big-time sharing and gifts, which they all were. These half-and-fun companions can be transformative, but remember they are based on a mutual open-door policy. If you put your sad in the box and close the lid, then no one can hear the sonar, and so people who might be a comfort just cruise on by. It would be such a shame to miss them, so try to stay open to the possibility of camaraderie in those lonely times. Someone might just nudge the door and surprise you. The classified ads of ennui. There are lots, and I mean lots, of actual formalized clubs out there dealing with every type of loss you can imagine. You can go and find a group of people who are dealing with the exact trauma you were experiencing, and you can sit with them and you can discuss it, and there will probably be sandwiches. I imagine it can be super rewarding. If you're that way out, then you fill your boots, but not in a Marla Singer way. I confess, perhaps surprisingly, that I've never done one. But that's probably because I don't like public speaking or a good chunk of the populace. Based on no experience whatsoever, I have surmised that you are going to get some showboating assholes in that kind of group discussion situation, and in times of upheaval, my patience for people like that is almost non-existent. I can be very rude, and I suspect I am one of those showboating assholes. Either way, it didn't appeal to me, but it could work for you to think about it, huh? A very, very much more low-impact way of dipping your toe into actual support groups is by doing it digitally. It's how Emma and I found our wider community. We came up with Authors Day on Instagram, see page 296, after making a few throwaway statements about how the marketing around Mother's Day was a bit relentless and bummed us out. And then hundreds of people slid into our DMs and said, yeah, same. So we decided to just carve out a little space on the internet for people who felt sad too, so they could express that rather than sulk in a corner about the fact that, no, a mother-daughter crafting box was not just the thing for this time of year. At least not for them. And it opened our eyes to all the people who felt discombobulated on those kind of days for 1,000 different reasons, from miscarriage to estrangement to slowly losing a parent to dementia to, well, just to the power of infinity. All these people had lost something and just wanted to simply be able to say that without being made to feel like a party pooper, and in a space where someone else might be able to empathize and make them feel a little less terribly alone. Fast forward a few years and we've been on the telly, nice. We've spoken to loads of lovely Others Day cohorts, really nice, and some brands have tried to co-opt it for commercial gain, less nice, and that just in our minuscule corner of the internet. To really drive home my point about the power of digital gaggles, just think of mothers. They are the perfect example of the power of the internet and of loss clubs. Early motherhood sounds a lot like early bereavement. You are most likely sleep deprived, confused, scared, doing something no one prepared you for. Everyone else seems to be having a much better time than you. No one seems to have noticed you're literally falling apart, and you wish you could fashion yourself a time machine because the situation could not be borne in any meaningful long-term way. Enter the Instamom. There will be one you connect to, whether you're doing send-up ditties about how much they currently dislike their baby, or publicly crying because it's all too much, or posting a photo of themselves smeared in feces, asking for advice on mastitis, or just saying they haven't a clue what's going on. And while they work through this confusing new world, there are thousands of people conversing with them saying, I got you, or cabbage leaves, or Vanish is really good at getting shit out. And in that way, navigating their new normal is a little less completely unbearable because everyone feels they have someone who gets it, or so I'm told. I'm also told that for some people, and I'm not sure the majority, because of it was why would anyone procreate? But for some people, the moment you become a mother, it's quite normal to feel loss in a way you couldn't even have imagined. A loss of yourself, of your girlhood, of your freedom, that you mourn yourself and the women you were, and while you wouldn't take it back for a moment, something is lost that will never return. We need to make a space to talk about that properly because it sounds pretty intense. Complementary therapy. Then we come to the people who haven't had your type of loss, who don't get it, but who can be really nice weapon in your uplifting arsenal regardless. They are the side notes, the welcome distractions, the little slivers of normality in a world that feels foreign. There will still be some touch points on familiarity, but their otherness will be joy, and you'll almost certainly funnel in a good helping of loss. That's all very abstract, but I'll give you a concrete scenario based on me because I love to talk about me. I embarked on a creative writing MA 2 months after my nan died. It was poor timing, but it was also excellent timing. I got to spend time with people who I had something in common with, i.e. creatives who were not grieving and were not related to me, and I got to write stuff down. And that was really liberating. And I got to channel all my sadness into starting a novel that was a thinly veiled autobiographical look at loss and otherness. I did that alongside 14 other people, all repackaging their stuff and creating some terrible and some jolly good literature as a result. I sat firmly in the middle. I was passable. But those people, and 3 in particular who also felt a bit other but didn't directly get my experience, were a godsend. They gave me somewhere to be once a week, gave me somewhere to put my sadness, gave me somewhere to get away from it to. Those classmates were awesome, even the ones who were just there for comic effect. The distractions. The people who reminded me that you could focus in on really annoying, insignificant things and that was okay. They gave me bad poetry and really good vibes. They made me want to be cleverer and more well-read and less of a drag. One carried me home when I was so drunk I couldn't physically lift my face off the table after a particularly ropey open mic night. One dropped me on the floor from such a great height that I regularly flash back to the hideous tipping point. One asked me the most direct and disarming questions I've never ever been asked and made me chauffeur him round like he was Lady Penelope. They made me know what it would be to feel normal again. And they were very gentle with my sometimes achingly shit writing. I'll touch on them again later in the book, but the point is that sometimes it's really helpful to find a loss group that isn't about loss, whether that's a pottery class or beginners Italian or samba. Trust that the people in it will be good people because they share a passion with you and will probably offer some respite from the relentless monotony of working through your grief. And that's Lost Club. The secret is really the whole world is Lost Club, but I've just done you a time out, places to find companionship in a time of loss article to take all the stress out of trying to muddle it out. Think of me as an emotional concierge. You are welcome.